We are defined by our differences. Everything is defined by what it is not. We ascribe meaning through difference. If there were just men and no woman, then there would be no man. If there was just the self and no other, then there would be no self. We need this difference to understand the world and define everything we see. When we create the separation so as to define our world, we create a divide. When a divide is created, we can't help but privilege one of the sides. Let's take self and other as an example. Marcel Mauss, an anthropologist writing just after World War II, put forward the idea of alliance theory. Mauss said that all of society is built around gifts. If you take the self and the other, we can pull together the idea of the divide and the gift. There is you, and there is me. Between us, there is a divide. Now, how do we create a relationship between us? I am going to give you a gift. This could be a compliment, it could be giving you some food, a warm hello, letting you marry my son or daughter, if that's how you want to think about it. It can be anything. The important thing to realize is that it is positive for you. Now, when you receive a gift, you have a debt. This debt isn't official or underwritten. I have given you a piece of me, and now you feel obligated to return the favor. Now we have created a relationship, no matter how big or small, and in a way, bridge the divide through the gift exchange. Now let's talk about the one. The one is the idea of the overarching body or institution existing theoretically over people, all of us. Examples of this can be the government, the church, the family, etc. While every one is made up of individuals, in many ways we can think of it as our own body functioning just as people function. We are bonded to the one just as we are bonded to each other. So let's talk it through. There is a divide between us and the one. We bridge it by giving it part of us so that it is indebted to us and gives us itself in return. For religion, we give it time. We give it an hour or two every Sunday. For the family, we give it, well, hopefully a lot of things, but to name a few, love, money, time. So let's talk about the one and how it wields power over us. Remember earlier how we talked about how one side of the divide is always privileged? Everyone privileges themselves over the other, but the one is privileged over the self. The power of one is exercised in two specific ways, through truth and through violence. By truth, I don't mean capital T truth, but the conception of what is true and what is false in a society. Cool philosophy man, Michel Foucault, says that society perpetuates power and systems of power through its production of truth through institutions, like the education system and banks, and concepts like knowledge production and rational thought. Rational thought and the scientific method are just stuff we made up. Just saying. In turn, these systems of truth perpetuate the systems of power that created them. Let's take the educational system, for example. We are taught by a system that is American, capitalist, Western thought-centric. It was created by those in power, and the purpose of which is to make us into people that fit well into the system, so that we can perpetuate it. As far as violence goes, let's turn to the much-hated Canadian philosopher Stefan Molyneux. He pioneered the idea of the escalation of violence. Escalation of violence posits that all laws in our society are backed up by violence. What happens if you smoke weed and someone sees you? Well, maybe you run away. But what if they call the cops? Well, you can run away from them too, but what if they try to arrest you? And what happens if they try to handcuff you? Well, you run away again. And then they shoot you. The state uses its legitimate violence to back up every one of its laws. So to recap, the one, in this case the state, exercises its power through the production of truth, which perpetuates it and uses its legitimate violence to back up all of its regulations. So let's recap and finish this baby out. What we have right now is how we relate to each other and how we relate to the power structures at play in the world, and conversely, how the power structures exercise power on us. But what if this is all just all wrong? It's all made up anyway. What if we didn't have to create a divide? Let's go back to the initial model. There is you, and there is me. How are we going to relate? Well, first, let's talk about how we exist. For this, I apologize, but I'm going to have to lay out another dichotomy. The individual and the person. The person is the self as viewed by society. It includes things like race, sexual orientation, appearance. These are category representations that you can be put in. An easy way to think about it is, what is a person of color? How are we going to relate? What if we just focused on me and my conception of you? When I think about you, I'm not getting to the real you. I'm only getting to my perception of you. The person. The boxes I'm putting you in, not the individual you. I have no way to access your felt experience. I am merely putting my own subjectivity onto you. But the kicker is the same is true for you. You aren't getting to the real interior me, only the exterior me. your perception of me. This idea is called the fold, and was pioneered by anthropologist Gilles Deleuze. Now, the fold sounds bad, but is it really? If we can acknowledge the fact that we have a hard time actually conceiving of each other, then we can actually attempt to see each other in a real way. If we don't, well then the divide may as well still be there, and we'll be stuck having to give each other gifts until the end of goddamn time.